Welcome back to Grandma Diary. Subscribe and let's dive in. The morning light filtered through my bedroom curtains with an unusual heaviness, as if even the sun knew something terrible was about to unfold. I reached up to scratch my head, still foggy with sleep, and my fingers met nothing. Smooth, cold skin where my hair should have been. My heart stopped. I bolted upright in bed, my hands frantically exploring my scalp. Every single strand. 72 years of silver hair that I'd carefully maintained, that I'd worn in a dignified bun for decades, completely vanished overnight. The scream that tore from my throat didn't even sound like my own voice. It was primal, terrified, the sound of a woman whose entire world had just shattered in the span of a heartbeat. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely grip the edge of my nightstand as I pulled myself toward the mirror. The reflection staring back at me was a stranger. A bald, vulnerable stranger with tears streaming down weathered cheeks. Today was supposed to be perfect. Today was my son Michael's wedding day. The day I'd been planning for, saving for, sacrificing for over the past 18 months. And someone had done this to me. That's when I saw it. Propped against my jewelry box. A small white envelope with my name written in elegant cursive. My daughter-in-law-to-be's handwriting. Jessica's handwriting. My fingers trembled as I tore it open. The words swam before my eyes at first, but as they came into focus, each sentence felt like a physical blow. Dear Margaret, consider this a small preview of what happens to people who don't know their place. You've served your purpose. Your money, your house, your pathetic little life savings. Michael is mine now. And we don't need some controlling old woman hanging around playing the martyr. The wedding you paid for. You're not invited. The house you signed over. Consider it ours. Your precious son. He knows everything and he agrees. Done. Oh, and the hair. That was my idea. Thought you might like a new look for retirement, wherever that might be, since it certainly won't be here. Don't try to make a scene. We have lawyers, documents, and Michael on our side. You're just a bitter old woman who's going to end up exactly where you deserve, alone, forgotten, and penniless. Warm regards, Jessica, soon to be Mrs. Michael Harrison. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? I read it 3 times before my brain could process what my eyes were seeing. This couldn't be real. This had to be some horrible nightmare. But the cold air on my scalp and the cruel words in my hands told a different story. Let me take you back 6 months to help you understand how I ended up here. How I could have been so blind, so foolish, so completely played. Michael had always been my pride and joy. After my husband Robert died 15 years ago from a sudden heart attack, Michael became everything to me. My only child. My reason for getting up in the morning. He was 35, handsome, successful in his career as a marketing executive. And when he introduced me to Jessica 8 months before that terrible morning, I thought my prayers had been answered. Mom, she's the one, Michael had said. His eyes shining with that special light that only love can ignite. I've never been this sure about anything in my life. Jessica was beautiful. Model tall with cascading auburn hair, bright green eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. She was 28, worked as a real estate agent, and had a way of making everyone around her feel special. Or so I thought. Mrs. Harrison, she'd said that first evening, taking both my hands in hers warmly. Michael has told me so much about you. I can already tell where he gets his kind heart from. It melted. Completely melted. Here was this gorgeous, successful young woman who seemed to genuinely appreciate me, who asked about my life, who laughed at my stories about raising Michael as a single mother after Robert's death. Please call me Margaret, I'd insisted. We're going to be family. I'd love that, she'd replied, squeezing my hands. I lost my own mother 5 years ago. Cancer. I've been looking for that maternal connection ever since. Blame. Sinker. Over the following months, Jessica became a fixture in my life. She'd stop by for coffee, help me with grocery shopping, sit with me and look through old photo albums of Michael's childhood. She'd tear up at pictures of Robert, asking me to tell her stories about the man I'd loved and lost. You're so strong, Margaret, she'd say, wiping her eyes. Raising Michael alone, building a life after such tragedy. You're an inspiration. Ate it up. Every word, every gesture, every carefully crafted moment of false intimacy. The wedding planning began 4 months after they started dating. Fast, but Michael insisted they both knew this was right. And Jessica. She was the perfect bride-to-be. Patient, excited, including me in every decision. "Margaret, I want you to be part of this," she'd say as we looked at flower arrangements and cake designs. "This isn't just Michael's day or my day. It's our family's day. Our beginning." That word, family. It was like a drug to a lonely widow who'd spent 15 years with only her son for close company. The first red flag I missed, or rather chose to ignore, came 3 months before the wedding. "Mom, Jessica and I have been talking," Michael said one Sunday afternoon. We were having lunch at my house, the modest 3-bedroom home in the suburbs that Robert and I had paid off years ago. "We're thinking about our future, about starting a family soon, and we're going to need more space." "That's wonderful," I'd exclaimed. "Are you looking at houses? I can help with the down payment if you need." "Actually," Jessica interrupted gently, placing her hand over mine, "we were hoping to talk to you about something else. Something that could be perfect for everyone." She'd exchanged a look with Michael, one of those conspiratorial glances that couples share. At the time I thought it was sweet. "Mom," Michael continued, "your house is way too big for just you. You've been saying yourself that the maintenance is getting harder. The stairs are bothering your knees. What if we moved in here? With you?" My heart had soared. Living with my son again. Being part of their daily life. Helping with grandchildren when they arrived. "We'd take care of everything," Jessica added quickly. "All the maintenance, the yard work, everything that's been stressing you out. You'd have family around all the time. You'd never be lonely again. And think about it, you'd be able to be so involved with your grandchildren. Daily bedtime stories, helping with homework, being the grandmother every child dreams of having." "But where would I'd started, practical concerns creeping in. "We'd convert the garage into a beautiful in-law suite for you," Michael said. "Totally private, your own space, but still part of the family home. It would be perfect." "There's just one thing," Jessica said, her voice careful. "For the mortgage restructuring to work, we'd need to handle some financial aspects. It would be easier if the house was in our names. Just legally. Everything else stays the same. You'd have lifetime rights to live here, of course. We'd draw up all the papers with a lawyer." Red flag. Massive, waving, screaming red flag. But I didn't see it. Or I didn't want to see it. "I don't know," I'd said hesitantly. "This house. It's all I have left of your father." "Mom," Michael's voice was soft, almost hurt. "Don't you trust me? I'm your son. This is about building our family together, creating something beautiful. Unless you don't really want to be part of our lives." The emotional manipulation was textbook perfect. And it worked. "Of course I trust you," I'd said quickly. "Of course I want to be part of your family. If this is what you both want, then yes, let's do it." The next red flag came 2 months later. "Margaret, can we talk about something sensitive?" Jessica had asked one afternoon. We were alone, having tea in what I still foolishly thought of as my kitchen. "Of course, dear. What's on your mind?" "It's about the wedding," she said, looking uncomfortable. "We're so grateful for everything you're doing. I mean, the fact that you're paying for almost everything is beyond generous. But there's a problem with the budget. I'd already committed $40,000 to the wedding. My entire savings from years of careful budgeting, clipping coupons, denying myself luxuries. Money I'd been planning to use for retirement activities, maybe a small trip to visit Robert's grave in his hometown, some cushion for medical expenses in my old age. What kind of problem? Task. The venue we've chosen, the one Michael has his heart set on, it's going to cost more than we thought. And then there's the photographer Jessica really wants, and the band. Margaret, we're going to need another $20,000. The number had hit me like a physical blow. $20,000. I didn't have $20,000. Not without. I have some bonds, I'd heard myself saying. From Robert's life insurance. I was saving them for emergencies, but… Oh, Margaret. Jessica had thrown her arms around me. You're the most selfless person I've ever met. Michael is so lucky to have you as a mother. We both are. I promise you this wedding is going to be perfect. Something you'll remember forever. She was right about that last part at least. The house transfer happened 6 weeks before the wedding. I signed papers in a lawyer's office. Jessica's lawyer, I should note, though at the time I thought nothing of it. Michael wasn't even there. He'd claimed a work emergency at the last minute. Just a formality, Jessica had assured me, her hand warm on my shoulder. You're securing your son's future, Margaret. You're being an amazing mother. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Moss, had given me a long look. Mrs. Harrison, do you have your own legal representation? She'd asked. Oh, that's not necessary, Jessica had interjected smoothly. This is family. We don't need lawyers fighting lawyers. Nevertheless, Patricia had continued, her eyes still on me, I'm required to inform you that by signing these documents, you're transferring full ownership of your property to Jessica Winters and Michael Harrison. You will have no legal claim to this property. While there's a verbal agreement about living arrangements, without a formal legal contract. Patricia, please. Jessica's voice had gone cold. We're not here for a lecture. Margaret understands what she's signing. Don't you, Margaret? And I'd nodded. Like a fool, I'd nodded and signed my life away. The wedding planning intensified. Jessica was at the house constantly now. Though it was their house now, wasn't it? I'd catch her measuring rooms, making notes, having whispered phone conversations that would stop the moment I entered. Just wedding stuff, she'd say with a bright smile. You know how it is. So many details to coordinate. 4 weeks before the wedding, I noticed my bedroom door had a new lock on it. From the outside. Oh, that, Jessica had said when I asked. We're having some work done on the house after the honeymoon. Thought it would be good to keep your room secure while contractors are around. Don't worry about it. 3 weeks before the wedding, my mail stopped coming to the house. When I asked about it, Michael shrugged. Must be a postal service issue, Mom. You know how unreliable they've been lately. 2 weeks before the wedding, I came home from grocery shopping to find my car gone from the driveway. We had it towed for repairs, Jessica explained. It's making that weird noise again, remember? Should be back in a few days. Never came back. Looking back now, I can see every single manipulation, every carefully laid trap. But when you're in the middle of it, when the people you trust most in the world are the ones orchestrating your destruction, you don't see the pattern. You make excuses. You explain away the inconsistencies. You blame yourself for being paranoid, for not trusting your own family. The night before the wedding, the night before I woke up bald, should have been filled with joy. Instead, it was filled with growing unease that I couldn't quite name. I'd spent the day doing final preparations, pressing my dress for the ceremony. A lovely lavender gown I'd splurged on, one of the few things I'd bought for myself, organizing the flowers I was supposed to bring to the venue, going over my speech as mother of the groom for the 100th time. Jessica had stopped by around 7 in the evening, looking radiant and excited. Big day tomorrow, she'd said, giving me a quick hug. How are you feeling? Nervous? Excited? Both, I'd admitted. I can't believe my baby is getting married. Well, try to get some rest tonight, she'd said. We need you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed tomorrow. She'd laughed at her own joke, a high, tinkling sound that suddenly seemed false to my ears. Jessica, I'd said slowly, is everything all right? Between us, I mean. Her face had transformed into a mask of concern. Of course. Why would you ask that? I don't know. I feel like things have been different lately. Like you and Michael are always whispering, and there are all these things happening with the house and my car and… Margaret, she'd interrupted, her voice warm but firm. Wedding stress. That's all this is. Michael and I have had 1,000 things to coordinate, and we've been trying to protect you from all the chaos. We didn't want you to worry about anything except enjoying the day. But if you're feeling left out, I'm so sorry. That was never our intention. She'd hugged me again, tighter this time. You're so important to us, she'd whispered. To both of us. Never forget that. As she'd pulled away, I'd noticed she was wearing perfume. Heavy, floral, expensive. The same perfume that I'd now noticed lingering in my bathroom a few times over the past week, though I hadn't thought much about it at the time. Get some sleep, she'd said as she left. Big, beautiful day tomorrow. Around 9, I'd taken my evening medications. Blood pressure pills, vitamins, the usual regimen of an elderly woman trying to stay healthy. I'd poured myself a small glass of wine to calm my nerves and settled into bed with a book. The wine had tasted slightly off, bitter in a way it shouldn't have been. I'd assumed maybe the bottle had turned, though it had only been opened 2 days prior. I'd forced down half the glass anyway, not wanting to waste it, then set it aside. The drowsiness had hit me fast. Unusually fast. One moment I was reading, the next I could barely keep my eyes open. The book had slipped from my fingers, and I'd vaguely registered the sound of it hitting the floor before darkness claimed me. I hadn't heard the door to my bedroom open around midnight. I hadn't felt the hands that carefully, methodically applied the depilatory cream to every inch of my scalp. I hadn't heard the whispered voices, the suppressed laughter, or the phone camera recording my unconscious form. I hadn't known that while I slept, drugged and helpless, my daughter-in-law-to-be was destroying the last shred of my dignity. After reading Jessica's note, I sat on the edge of my bed for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. My mind was racing, trying to process the magnitude of what had been done to me. The hair was violation enough. A sick, twisted act of cruelty. But the rest of the note revealed something far worse. They'd planned this. All of it. Every moment of the past 8 months had been a carefully orchestrated con to take everything I had. My housegun. My savings, spent on their wedding. My bonds cashed. My dignity, stripped away with my hair. My family a lie. I should have collapsed. I should have called the police, should have screamed, should have done something dramatic and immediate. But sitting there, looking at my bald reflection in the mirror, something else happened instead. Got angry. Not the hot, explosive anger that burns itself out quickly. No, this was something different. This was cold, calculated fury that settled into my bones like ice crystallizing. They thought they'd broken me. They thought they'd won. They thought an old woman would just shuffle away quietly into whatever hole they decided to throw her into. They were wrong. I stood up, straightened my shoulders, and looked at myself in the mirror. The bald woman looking back at me wasn't pathetic or destroyed. She was someone who'd survived losing the love of her life. She'd raised a child alone. She'd built a life from nothing after tragedy. She'd endured. And she wasn't done yet. First things first. I needed to understand the full extent of the damage. I went to my small desk in the corner of the room and opened the drawer where I kept important documents. Every folder, every paper, every document gone. My birth certificate, social security card, the deed to the house, not that it mattered anymore. Bank statements, everything. They'd cleaned me out completely. My purse was still on the dresser. Inside, $23 and some change. My credit cards were gone. My ID was gone. Even my library card was missing, which felt like unnecessary cruelty but was probably just thoroughness on their part. I went to my closet. Half my clothes were gone. Not all of them, interestingly enough. They'd left just enough that it wouldn't be immediately obvious someone had packed up my belongings, but taken enough that I'd be seriously limited. All my nice dresses were gone except for the lavender one I'd planned to wear to the wedding. They'd left me that, probably as another layer of psychological torture, a reminder of what I was going to miss. My jewelry box had been ransacked. The few valuable pieces I'd owned. My engagement ring that I'd stopped wearing years ago, some pearl earrings Robert had given me on our 10th anniversary, a gold bracelet from my mother, all gone. They'd left costume jewelry and cheap trinkets. The rage inside me crystallized further. I walked through what used to be my house like a ghost, cataloging the violations. In the kitchen, the good china was gone. The set that had been my mother's, passed down through 3 generations. Pots and pans I'd used for decades, replaced with cheaper alternatives. Even my favorite coffee mug was missing, the one that said "World's Best Mom," that Michael had given me 20 years ago on Mother's Day. That detail broke something in me. The mug wasn't valuable. It had no resale worth. Taking it was pure spite. In the living room, the photos were the worst discovery. They'd removed every picture of me from the walls and shelves. Wedding photos of Robert and me gone. Pictures of me holding baby Michael gone. Decades of family memories, erased as if I'd never existed. But they'd left one photo. One single photograph in the entire house. It was sitting face up on the coffee table, clearly placed there deliberately. The photo showed Jessica and Michael, smiling at the camera, standing in front of this house with a sold sign. It had clearly been photoshopped. The sign was too crisp, too perfect, but the message was clear. This isn't your home anymore. This was never really your home. You were just keeping it warm for us. I sat down on the couch, my couch that wasn't mine anymore, and forced myself to think clearly. Emotions were fine, but action required strategy. I'd spent my entire adult life being reactive, being accommodating, being the good wife and good mother who put everyone else first. That version of Margaret Harrison had been destroyed along with her hair. It was time for a different version to emerge. First problem: I had no money, no identification, no proof of who I was. Second problem: I had no car, no transportation, and no phone. I'd discovered my cell phone was also missing. Third problem: the wedding was happening today. According to the clock, it was now 7:30 a.m., and the ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m. Fourth problem: I was completely isolated with no obvious allies. But I did have a few things in my favor, things that Jessica and Michael didn't know about because they'd underestimated the pathetic old woman they thought they were dealing with. First, I had a safety deposit box at the bank downtown. Robert had insisted we get one years ago, and I'd faithfully kept it even after his death. In it were copies of important documents, some emergency cash, $5,000 that Jessica didn't know existed, and something else, something I'd put there almost forgotten about until this moment. Robert's insurance policy documents, which included detailed records of the bonds that were supposed to be my nest egg. The bonds I'd supposedly cashed to pay for the wedding. I'd need to check, but I had a sick feeling those bonds had never been cashed at all. They'd been transferred to Jessica and Michael's names. Second, I had friends. Real friends. People I'd known for decades that I'd been neglecting during my obsession with Michael and Jessica's relationship. Clara Hendricks, my neighbor from 3 houses down, who I'd known for 30 years. Eugene Martinez, Robert's old business partner, who'd helped me sort through legal documents after Robert's death. Margaret Chen, my former colleague from my nursing days before retirement. People who actually cared about me, not what they could take from me. Third, I had something Jessica and Michael clearly didn't. Actual evidence of what they'd done. That note. That cruel, gloating note where Jessica had essentially confessed to fraud, theft, and conspiracy. She'd written it because she thought I was too broken to fight back, too helpless to use it against her. She'd made a mistake born of arrogance and cruelty. I carefully folded the note and put it in the pocket of my bathrobe. Then I wrapped my head in a scarf. Not out of shame, but out of practicality. The November morning was cold, and I needed to think strategically, not emotionally. Walking out the front door of that house felt like stepping into a new life. I didn't even bother locking the door behind me. After all, it wasn't my house to secure anymore, was it? The morning air hit my face, crisp and clarifying. 3 houses down, I could see Clara's kitchen light on. She'd always been an early riser, up with the sun to tend her garden even in late autumn. I walked up her driveway and knocked on her door. Clara answered in her bathrobe, coffee cup in hand, her face breaking into a surprised smile when she saw me. "Margaret! Good heavens, what are you doing here so early? Shouldn't you be getting ready for?" She stopped, her eyes really focusing on me for the first time, taking in my scarf-wrapped head, my bare face without makeup, my $23 clutched in my hand like a lifeline. "Clara," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I need help." They've taken everything from me, and I need help." Her face transformed from friendly neighbor to warrior grandmother in an instant. "Get inside," she said, pulling me through the door. "Tell me everything, and don't you dare leave out a single detail." Thanks for watching part 1. Please subscribe for next part.